What's going on, everybody? Here we are. We've had Christmas, we've had holidays, we're rapidly coming up on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and all of the football associated with that, all of the fresh starts and everything. Now, I'm really excited about this week's episodes. You guys know by now that I am very, very routined, right? I am Monday, Wednesday, either Thursday and Friday, and then usually Saturday. And it's Monday is my question to all of you like this. My Wednesday is my Q&A. I kind of have a routine that I stick to. And I'm going off routine a little bit this week. With the holidays, with moving around and visiting people and, all that kind of stuff, it's kind of throwing things out of whack a little bit. So kind of have your eye out for some videos this week on days that you may not be used to. I have a really, really interesting conversation coming up this week. It's going to be in two parts. It's going to be part one and part two. I had a guest on, a friend of mine, who is, I think, a legendary collector. He has been collecting for a very, very long time. He's been collecting cards almost as long as I have been alive. And he's got an insane collection. And he is an absolute wealth of knowledge. And so I have a part one and a part two. We look at his collection. We talk about collecting. We talk about kind of the strategy that he's used. And when we first sat down, I said, hey, what do you think? Maybe like a 40-minute conversation? And he's like, yeah, okay. And we went for 2 hours. Which is the reason I had to break it into two parts. A fantastic guy, a fantastic collection, an absolute wealth of knowledge. And I'm really excited for that. So check out the part one and part two episodes of that conversation. I really am excited for this. I really think you all are going to enjoy it. Now, last week I asked everybody, what's the deal with the obsession on rookie cards only and the obsession on only Hall of Famers? And I'm partly guilty. I have one Carl Yastrzemski card. It's his rookie. I have one, Manny Minoso card. It's his rookie. I have one Monty Irvin card. It's his rookie. I have a lot of T206 cards. I probably have 25 or so. And I think I only have maybe 4 that aren't Hall of Famers. I'm as guilty as anyone. And I think that it's worthy of a conversation because I don't remember it always being this way. I don't remember growing up and we only cared about rookie cards and we only cared about absolute superstars, Hall of Famers. And obviously, don't get me wrong. Yeah, when I opened a pack and I pulled the Don Mattingly, I was more excited than when I pulled, somebody else. But it seems like now we're literally in a world where people have the value of commons, even vintage commons, hasn't increased in a long time. And in some cases, they're actually less. And when people open packs nowadays, they pull out a couple of cards and they literally throw the rest away. So what happened and what's going on? And I'm excited to share some of your responses to that and that thought process of what's going on here. Now, I do want to share a really amazing gift that I got. I've gotten some really sweet cards and some notes and some packages from people, and the card community continues to absolutely blow me away. But one of the things about this gift that I'm going to share here quickly is the thoughtfulness behind it. It's like this is a person who knows what I collect and what I've been collecting. And my guy David, first, he knows I love the look and see cards, and I have quite a few. He sent me this Buffalo Bill in a PSA 6. He sent me this General Ridgway in a PSA 4.5. But throw the grade out the window. That's a gorgeous card. I love these cards. He sent me Admiral Dewey. Look at that. In a PSA 6. Is that a 6? Gosh, that is gorgeous. Then he knows I collect pirate cards. So I have one card from the 1933 Sea Raider set. And the Sea Raider set is made by kind of Gowdy, Worldwide Gum, that whole kind of partner company. And he got me two of these. Look at that. That is unbelievable. And that is a beautiful example of this card. They're numbered to, well, they say that they're numbered high, but I think there's 48 of them in the set, if I'm not mistaken. I only had one. He sent me two. Check this thing out. I don't know. You might have just kickstarted me, David, into a whole new set that I might end up collecting. I'll probably finish my Allen and Ginter set first, but these are fantastic. Then he sent me a couple of awesome 2010 Topps Chrome. This is a Ty Cobb refractor. That is a gorgeous card. Look at the shine on that thing. And then he sent me a green one too. Look at that thing. That is just, oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. Those are fantastic. He sent me a Clemens card and a Clemens and Mussina, two Yankee greats in a 10. Sent me this George Steinbrenner. You know, I know George Steinbrenner gets a lot of heat, but George Steinbrenner, when I met him, was a fantastic guy. He could not have been kinder. I could not have been more impressed with how he not only treated me, but with a few other people who came up and introduced themselves. And then the 81 Donruss golf set, he sent me the whole set. Here are the two Nicklaus cards in the set. Sent me the whole set. I mean, the generosity, that was a very, very thoughtful gift and a very, very generous gift. Thank you so much for that. This community continues to absolutely blow me away with the generosity, the thoughtfulness, the kindness. I'm just happy to be a part of it. That said, let's take a look at the first series of responses to the question of what's the deal? What happened? Why do we only care about rookie cards and Hall of Famers? Check it out. Now, some of the responses were like, no, nothing's changed. It's always been about rookies and superstars, including from my buddy Dylan Double D Vintage Baseball Cards. He says, my honest opinion is the lesser stars of baseball have never been as popular as the top guys, except while they were playing. Since I was a kid, I collected only the stars. I never cared about random dudes. Those were in my bike spokes. I don't think anything changed, and I don't see a world where it ever will. Why would it? We like the stars unless you're building a set or want to tell the history of baseball with your collection. That's my 2 cents. And another says, let me preface this by saying that I mostly collect modern basketball, where overproduction has probably reinforced the move away from non-rookie cards. But hasn't the hobby always focused on rookies and Hall of Famers? 15 years ago, when I started collecting, people were still paying way more for a player's rookie card as opposed to other years. I think this is a psychology thing. How can I differentiate between the cards a player has? Which one stands out among the rest? The masses decided that would be the superior one. I think it's a silly concept, honestly. Why a rookie card would be superior rather than a card from the player's best season or last season, etc. I have a feeling if you ask collectors in a vacuum with no knowledge of what the accepted card preference is, rookies, there would be a lot more variation in response to what the market shows. All right. First they say, what do you mean, Greg? Come on, it's always been like this. Dylan says, I was putting the commons in my bike spokes. I wasn't. I remember opening packs when I was, 87, 88 tops packs that I would open. And I was always hoping to get a Mattingly or a Greg Nettles card. And then I wanted Yankee cards. But I never threw any cards away. I used to have those big boxes, like the 500 count boxes or whatever they were. And all the cards went there. Like I never threw a card away. And then the good cards, they would go into the pages and part of my collection. And it just feels like now, like people don't even hide the fact that they have no interest in the common cards. And I think the second comment makes a great point, and it says, how else do you differentiate, especially in today's day and age? In the current era of cards, there are so many parallels, so many brands. I mean, Panini, how many different Panini cards are there? How many different Topps cards are there? So how do you differentiate? Well, they've made all of these different levels and numbers and short prints and super short prints that in order to kind of differentiate them, it's made it where there's definitely a hierarchy. And the hierarchy, people go, oh, this is a base, this is garbage. Even if it's a good name, it's kind of discouraging to me to a certain extent. And I agree. I mean, I went to card shows growing up, and when I would get my Roger Clemens card, my Roger Clemens rookie card, I would go and I would look, and that would be in the showcase, and that would be like $15, $20, probably about what it's worth now, right? And then I would go through the quarter box for all of the other stuff, the David Sunflower Seeds card, or the beef jerky card, or the whatever the offset was, the KB Toys card, the Toys R Us card, the Kmart card, whatever all of those different Clemens cards were, they were in the quarter box. So I'm not suggesting that there's it used to be a rookie was the same as the KB Toys card. But what I am suggesting is specifically with like vintage cards, and I mentioned a couple of guys like Rocky Colavito, I mentioned Ted Kluszewski in the question. And it's like, we're talking about some really, really good players, some borderline Hall of Fame guys, important players on good teams. And for whatever reason, those cards have very little value. And in some cases, even the rookie cards. A guy like Johnny Mize. You look at a Johnny Mize card from the 52 Topps set. We're talking about a Hall of Fame player who's a Yankee, who it's the 52 Topps set. And by the way, the image on that card is fantastic. It's very, very affordable. Like insanely affordable. You can buy that card. That card has showed up several times on the cards under $50 videos that I do. For a 52 Topps Johnny Mize. We're talking about an important player, a popular team. Why is that? So it's not even if you're a Hall of Famer, then you're collected. If you're not a Hall of Famer, you're not collected. Even some of the Hall of Famers are just people don't care. It feels like it's all about the crown jewel cards, It's like anything that's not a crown jewel card is kind of out of the way. Even a guy like a Willie Mays. Look up, not Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, sorry. Willie McCovey's rookie card from the 1960 Topps set. Like, Willie McCovey had over 500 home runs. Like, a really good player, a really good guy who I actually met. I remember when I shook his hand, I was a little kid. He had massive hands. The thing about Willie McCovey is his rookie card, you can buy that card in like a 4 grade, a nice looking 4, for a price that's just mind-blowing to me. But then you take another guy from that era, and their rookie cards are just off the charts, and even their 7th year cards are off the charts. It's like, if you are not one of the best, it feels to me like the values are lower than they were, 25 years ago. When my dad was building his 59 and 60 set, there were cards that he was buying then. Don Drysdale, Duke Snyder, in those sets, the Symbol of Courage card of Roy Campanella, they were more expensive 30 years ago than they are right now. And inflation hasn't stopped. So how is it fewer dollars buys those cards now than 30 years ago? How is that even possible? So to me, yes, I get it. There's always been a hierarchy. People have always wanted the rookie card. But it's more now than it used to be. And the minor star guys now, to me, are just, to a lot of collectors, it's not every collector, but a lot of collectors are just expendable. They're just Elston Howard, cheap. Bobby Richardson, cheap. Those are two guys my dad collects. And their cards are really affordable, even in decent grades. And I don't really understand it. Let's take a look at what some other people had to say here. Some people said, yeah, we should care more about cards than just rookies and Hall of Famers. Great topic of discussion for this week. I agree with some of the comments above that the decline of set building in the hobby has contributed to non-Hall of Fame and non-rookie cards being less sought after. I think rookie cards have a certain lore about them because we know how the story plays out for the player on the card. But at the time, the producer of the buyer of the card did not. It's always fun to read the paragraph on the back of Hall of Famers rookie cards and see how the player not only met but far exceeded expectations. As it relates to my own collecting, my new goal is to have one card I really prefer for every post-war Hall of Famer. Many times that means saving significant money, e.g. I recently bought a 60 Banks versus a 54, a 63 Koufax versus a 55, and I aim to eventually get the 57 Aaron over the 54. Other times it still means shelling out big chunks of change. My two Grail cards I would like to get next year are the 53 Topps Satchel Paige and the 53 Bowman Pee Wee Reese. Long story short, my hope is that the hobby does begin to pay more attention to the beauty of a card over whether it's a rookie or not. Collecting non-Hall of Famers is just as important. The story of baseball cannot be told by only the players who made the Hall of Fame. And this one says, in response to your next video, I spent the last few days buying high eye appeal, non-rookie 50s and 60s cards of players I want to collect, purposely avoiding buying rookie cards. In fact, I traded a Peyton PSA 7 rookie card and a Gretzky Topps PSA 6 rookie card for a non-rookie Pele card. Probably not a smart financial move, but the Pele card meant more to me. The premium attached to rookie cards makes it nearly impossible for me to find cards as nice looking as my non-rookies without spending money I don't have. Eventually, I hope to get those rookie cards that fit nicely with my other cards. But the Hall of Fame rookie collecting mindset that pervades the space makes it not really doable for me at this time, unfortunately. Plus, in many cases, the rookie card is not the most attractive card in my opinion, and paying a premium for something that's not as appealing doesn't make sense. In the long run, financially speaking, I am probably making a mistake, as the rookie card is likely to hold or gain value proportionately more than the non-rookie card, but I view this as a fun journey more than investing. How's that for long-winded? And finally, this one says, I think we will continue to see the same trends in the hobby. High grades, Hall of Fame rookie cards, and key cards will continue to climb as the majority of vintage will stay where they are. 90% of collectors and investors are targeting the same cards. When new people get into vintage, they are immediately drawn to Mantle. I am fine with this because I want the demand to stay low in vintage. There are so many cards I want to get without paying more money for them. Okay, some really great comments there. Makes a lot of sense. The decline in set building, that's definitely part of it. You know, the fact that a 54 Ernie Banks is as expensive as it is, but the 57 is as cheap as it is, or same with the Hank Aaron. It's like a lot of people are going, this is great. I will go with the card I like more. And I do think that there are some rare cases where certain year cards have a little bit of a premium, like the 61 Maris and the 62 Maris. 61 being the year he broke the record, 62 being the card that shows the new record on the back. Like, those cards are special, and they're not his rookie card, and his rookie card is with a different team. So a lot of people that are collectors and want a Roger Maris card that's special, they might be a little bit more drawn to the 61 or the 62 than his 58 Topps rookie card. But there's not a lot of that. There aren't a lot of examples of that. And then you go, well, why? Why are people drawn to the 54 Hank Aaron instead of the 57 Hank Aaron? Well, to a certain extent, the 54 is a beautiful card. And it is interesting that a card that was printed before the guy was great is kind of special. It's like if, you know, there were a couple of kids when I was coaching Lucy's soccer team when she was little. I mean, I coached her from about the age of about 5 to about 9. And I was like, that's a special, that kid right there, she's special. Well, one of the kids that I was like, special athlete right there, she signed to be a pitcher at Columbia University for softball. Like, you could just tell. And then when you're like, I'm going to be curious to see how this plays out with that kid. I bet that kid. And then when she signs this big scholarship, you're like, oh yeah, I knew that she was special. It's almost like, it makes it like, yes, I was right on that one. And that's part of what I think people like about prospect hunting. You know, like with quarterbacks, is you go, I know this guy was the third quarterback, but I'm telling you, he's the best one. I'm going to invest in him. They invest in him, and he turns out to be the good one, the best one. And people are like, see, I was right. I was able to pick it. And I think that's part of the fun, is it's like when they're walking the horses out onto the racetrack, and you go, that horse looks like a beast. I know that the odds are for these other two, but that horse looks like there's something special there. And then you pick that horse and then you win. It's kind of fun to do that, to try to predict what's going to happen. And with all due respect, when we're talking about cards from like the golden age of baseball cards in like the 50s, those are the cards that were on the magazines, that were on the Beckett's, that were on the annual Beckett's, that were on the all-time card price list, rankings. And they're the cards that we saw over and over and over. And when you see something over and over and over, it becomes more iconic. If I had never heard of the Statue of Liberty, but then I went to New York and someone goes, oh, there's this giant statue out there, I would go, that's a pretty big statue. But when as a kid you see pictures of it and you hear about how the United States got it, why the United States got it, how it was constructed and pictures and things, and then you see it, it's like, whoa, goosebumps, right? It's the same thing with cards. There are paintings at the Louvre that are better than the Mona Lisa, but the line for the Mona Lisa is longer because it's recognizable, because it's the one that we've all grown up seeing pictures of and hearing about. And now there you are. You actually get to see it. So some of the iconic cards, some of the rookie cards, it's not just about whether the player was great or whether the image is great. I understand that part of it is that it's something we grew up seeing, something we grew up admiring, and then being able to actually add it to our collection is definitely something special. And there's no doubt that a lot of players have better looking cards than their rookie card. No doubt about it. But the rookie card is the card that we longed for and we heard about and we saw in the showcases. So I do understand that perspective. There was another interesting series of responses that I wanted to share here.
Now, some people said it's simple. Just follow the money. This one says, everything is about money now. It's today's America that gets more and more expensive. People are forced to always consider the money part of anything. Even a hobby, we must consider the long-term values when we pass our collectibles down or decide to sell one day. So since Hall of Fame rookies are so entrenched in the hobby and media, it's a safe place to put our money to hedge inflation or invest. This one says, the later cards of stars and Hall of Famers have not held their own and have dropped in price. One reason is there has always been too much emphasis placed on rookie cards in the hobby. Rookie cards are where the money is and why new collectors open packs for that big rookie hit while they throw away the other cards. Also, set collecting has disappeared, which was the mainstay of the hobby for years until all the inserts and autograph cards. You could put together your favorite set in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s, since sets were finite. To complete the set, even high number commons were important to obtain. Finally, there has been too much emphasis on YouTube on obtaining grail cards, which are usually rookie or low pop superstars. We all tend to follow the herd. And this one says, I think it's a great time to collect Colavito and Kluszewski type vintage players. But I don't think the trend is reversing, where the hobby is moving more and more to iconic cards and rookies in the post-war era. If you care about values or are investing, stick with Hall of Famers and buy as many inner circle Hall of Fame rookie cards as you can. The 49 Leaf Jackie, 51 Bowman, Mantle and Mays, 54 Topps Aaron, and 55 Topps Clemente will only go up. Now it's a bit different for pre-war because those cards are so much scarcer. People will always want examples of classic pre-war Gaudy sets or T206s or Cracker Jacks.
All right. I mean, to a certain extent, what we all want to see is we all want to be blown away. We all want to see the wow card. You know, we just are ending this stretch. The month of December tends to be that month where so many guys show off their top 50 cards or 100 cards or 25 cards. And what card are you the most interested in? Are you most interested in seeing the guy's 90 through 100th best card or his top 10? Are you more interested in seeing the top 10 cards of me or the top 10 cards of some of these guys who have absolutely monster collections? I think we all, it's just like when you drive down the street and a Lamborghini drives by, you're like, whoa, there's a Lamborghini. That's unbelievable. But we're not as excited when the guy with the Ford Taurus drives by and go, that is a fine car. We don't do that. It's things we don't see all the time and things that are massive. Those are the things that kind of get our attention. And I do think that that's human nature, but I do think part of that is as a result of where we are at with society. You know, something about social media is social media has made it so easy to share things. Whether you're scrolling through Instagram or you're scrolling through Facebook or scrolling through YouTube, there are so many things that we get to see that we didn't used to get to see. And, you know, now the thing that makes you stop scrolling and go, whoa, let me take a closer look at that. That's the thing that you don't see every day. you know? It's the thing that you're most drawn to is the wow thing. And, we don't take pictures of us and post them on Facebook when we just got, we're sitting around the house on a Saturday. We take it when we're on the top of the mountain, the top of the volcano in Hawaii, or we're at the entrance of Disneyland. Those are the ones that we share. And I do think that the bright lights, the wow thing is the thing that people are most likely to share, and it's the thing that we're most likely to stop scrolling for. And I do think, like is mentioned there, that one of the issues with YouTube is that there's so much focus on some of these amazing collections that we finally get to see, which I love seeing them. That there are times where I think we overlook what the regular collector is collecting. And that's one of the reasons why a year ago I started doing the video of cards under $50. Now, there are some people that are not interested in buying cards that are under $50. They're like, no, I'm a consolidator. I want to sell my $50 cards and I want to buy more $500 cards. I respect that. I have no problem with that. But I also have no problem with the guy who says, I'm going to sell this card in a 10. I'm going to buy the same card in a 7. And then I'm going to use the extra money to get some of the other cards that I want. And basically sell down their collection to widen their collection and add depth to their collection. There's not a right way or a wrong way to do this. But it does seem like with so much focus on the big wow factor that it has lowered the demand for some of the more affordable players, affordable cards. I mean, if I say, hey guys, I got a 5th year Ernie Banks card, you're going to go, cool. But if I say, I got the 54 Topps Ernie Banks, you're more likely to want to check it out. And I think it's human nature. I think there's a lot that goes into that. But it does feel like we're at a place in society that if you're not bigger and better, then you're just kind of not that interesting, And it's unfortunate that it's that way. But there are some of us out there who are as interested in some of the foundational players, of some of the forgotten players. And that's one of the things that I've loved so much about collecting T206 cards. I have T206 cards of some players that were important, but you probably don't know who they are. I have a T206 card of Ginger Beaumont. You know why he's important? Do you know why he's interesting? Do you know why Owen Wilson is interesting? No, not the guy, not Lightning McQueen. I have some cards of guys that I think are interesting and some guys that are Hall of Famers that a lot of us have never heard of. And it's fun for me to do that research. Now, on that same line of thinking, my dad had a quote, and my dad and I think very similarly. I think that, we spend a lot of time talking. I obviously grew up hearing his rational thought process. So naturally, a lot of the things that he says, we agree a lot of the time, not all of the time. But I thought he had a really interesting point to this question, and I wanted to share that one along the same lines with what I was just saying right here.
My dad had some interesting thoughts that I wanted to share as well. He says, your question is a good one about whether minor stars like Colavito or the Big Clue will have value in the future. T206 collectors are people who enjoy the history of that period. They study and find out about these players that are under the radar. I think the older members of society are into history. They liked the cards because they loved history. It is my thought that there is not the love of history in today's youth. I don't think history is dealt with as well in school as it was decades ago. It's almost like some in the education field would like to wash history away. Therefore, until today's youth are enthused about times from the past, the minor historical figures will continue to fall by the wayside.
I think that there are some very interesting points here. And I think that there's a lot of truth here. And I'm curious at times if it will stay that way or if it's a temporary thing. And I don't know what is happening in every other person's mind. I don't know what other people think about. But I remember when I was a kid, I had so much reverence for George Washington. You know, this is a guy who, after the United States getting our independence, they said, "We want you to be the king." And he said, "No, I don't want to be the king. We just fought for our independence for a place where we don't have kings. We all are equal. I don't want to be the king. I'm not going to be the king." And I'm like, my gosh, that is incredible. You know, you look at a guy like Abraham Lincoln and what he did for our society and our country and the future of the world, and the leadership that he showed, and I have so much reverence for him. And we have coming up here, we have a couple of holidays. We have President's Day, we have George Washington's birthday, we have Lincoln's birthday, but now we just call it President's Day. And I feel like there was a time where it was like, this is Washington's birthday, this is Lincoln's birthday. And I remember at school, we would do projects and things, and we would learn about them specifically. Very shortly from now, we're going to have a Monday holiday for Martin Luther King Day. A guy who was an outspoken person about equality in our country. And I have a huge amount of respect for Martin Luther King, and I'm these are just three guys with holidays and birthdays coming up that I, as a kid, revered. And I sometimes wonder whether kids nowadays revere that. I kind of think that maybe they don't. This is, and I'm not trying to get political with what I'm about to say. I'm just going to tell you with where we're at. I'm a teacher, and at my school, we say the Pledge of Allegiance every Friday as a school together over the loudspeaker. In the last 4 years, I've had one student that stood with me to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Every other student sits and does not recite the pledge. Now, is that just my site? Maybe. Is that just my students? Maybe. Is that my state? Maybe. Is that my country? Maybe. I don't know how widespread that is. I just know that when my students say the pledge, and I'm not, I don't have the, I'm not allowed to tell them to stand. I'm not allowed to ask them to stand. They have the right to or not. And it's been something that's come up with our administration and with our district and things. And again, not trying to get political, but I think that there was a time where there was enough reverence for the flag and the history and those that, fought for the country, that wouldn't have happened. But that's where we are now. And if history is not as revered, if historical figures are not as revered, that could be part of what's happening. Unless you're an absolute superstar, unless you're Babe Ruth, unless you're Lou Gehrig, unless you're Mickey Mantle, unless you're Ted Williams, then you're just kind of like, well, nowadays people aren't as interested. They're about what's the newest and what's the greatest and what's the best. And I definitely think that probably plays a role in which people we collect and which people have the demand. And I'm sure that in Boston, Ted Williams still has a ton of demand, But do some of the other great Red Sox players? I don't know. In Northern California, Willie Mays is the guy, but are some of the other great Giants players as revered? Well, Mays is the best Giant of all time, but there was a time where you would see some of these other guys like a Gaylord Perry, like Mel Ott, some of these. And now if I went to a Giants game right now and I said to, 3 kids, who's Mel Ott? They probably wouldn't know. One of the best sluggers of all time. One of the best sluggers of all time. I mean, Gaylord Perry, they probably wouldn't know. Some of them would only know about Willie McCovey because it's McCovey Cove in right field. So there's definitely something about reverence that has been kind of eroded, and that probably has something to do with who people collect and why those people collect them. So here's my question for this upcoming week. My question for you is, what's your biggest hobby regret? It could be the purchase you didn't make. It could be the purchase you did make. Heck, maybe you spent 10 grand on a Wander Franco card. I don't know. But maybe it's that you started collecting one way and you wish you had collected another way. Or maybe you had collected this player and come to find out you wish you hadn't. I don't think that regret is something we should dwell on, but I do think choices that we make are things that we should learn from. And sometimes when we look back and we look at the choices that we made, that now knowing what we know at this point, we go, I wish I hadn't made that same choice. And then we go in a different direction. Just like what we were saying, I think we can learn from history. We don't have to look back at history and focus on just the negative things that people participated in, or just the mistakes that people made. We can also look at the positives from it. And I think that taking a positive out of a negative means that mistake, that was a mistake at that time, looking back, we can actually get some benefit from it by helping others to learn from those mistakes. So what is your biggest hobby regret? Tell me about that regret. Why is it a regret? And what do you wish you had done instead? Because I think there are a lot of us that want to learn from what others have done and become better, more educated collectors as a result. Again, I've got a big interview coming up this week. I really, really encourage you to check it out. It's going to be in 2 parts. One of the most interesting things that I've been a part of since I started my channel, and I think you're going to like it as well.